Hey everyone, it's Brent, the Oregon Stacker. Good to see you, Silver Spurs. Man, just wanted to do a chat live stream today with you guys. Yeah, so a lot happened over the weekend. First of all, I went to an Oregon Ducks football game. It ended on a field goal kick. Ducks won. It was crazy. It was insane. Let's go, Ducks. But I did watch NFL on Sunday, guys, and man, it was crazy hearing about all the Tyreek Hill stuff. And so I went back and I started watching all the videos, different screenshots. I mean, they had people walking. I mean, this happened right out in front of the stadium. Good to see you, Robert and Chu. So Tyreek Hill was stopped right out front of the stadium. If you guys didn't know, going to the stadium, I'm sure you probably heard about it. The alleged offense was for speeding. So imagine a game. I just got back from Autzen Stadium, an Oregon Ducks football game. They hold more people in that stadium. So in Autzen Stadium, we had close to 60,000 people, and I can tell you because I had to park my car a mile away. I was in a group of hundreds and hundreds of people walking to the stadium. And I've never been to Miami, but I'm assuming when those folks were going to that Miami stadium, they were probably in crowds of a lot of people. And you can see when Tyreek is stopped, you can see fans, walking by a little bit, looking like, what the hell is going on here? This was a couple hours before the game, so not many fans yet, but there definitely were fans and spectators. A lot of people were taking video of the traffic stop and knew who he was right away. Good to see you, Herman. So, a little bit about me, guys. Back in high school, I was a cadet explorer with the state police for 4 years. I did go. I did have like some different training in schools that we did. I never carried a gun or anything, but I did a lot of ride-alongs with state troopers, so I know a little bit about traffic stops in general, like what they're looking for, what they expect a driver to do. And a lot of people don't realize this, guys, because all these different videos on YouTube. Uh, what do you have to do when you're pulled over, right? Like, what are your responsibilities as a driver? A lot of people don't know or don't know the law that well. And one of the things I like to refer to is just look at Supreme Court law, because it doesn't matter what the county says, the state says, Supreme Court overlooks all of that, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the state of Oregon can have certain laws in the state of Oregon. Florida could have certain laws, but what the Supreme Court says, hey, that's what we go by. That's ruler of basically all the laws in the United States of America goes to the Supreme Court. Good to see us, SGT and Johnson family. So I remember before I get into the Tyreek Hill thing, like just my 2 cents on it from doing traffic stops before with officers, being just a sidekick calling things in. I remember one traffic stop we had on Highway 62 out here in Medford. It was a white van with fully blacked out tinted windows. Couldn't see in the thing at all. And I'm not even walking up to the thing, and I'm nervous. I was nervous about that because you can't see anything, right? Like, you don't know what's going on in there. Make a long story short, trooper went up there, Trooper Cuevas. The guy rolled his window down. We had a pleasantry conversation. Everything was fine, chill, and great. But I will tell you guys, I was amped up on that because you can't see anything, and like your mind goes to like wild places in those certain situations, right? And so I went back and I watched over these videos. Good to see you, Jerry Parker. And not seeing all the videos, but different cut ups on YouTube already. One of the things you see is the officers knocking on the window of Tyreek Hill's vehicle. And you do see he goes, like, roll the window down, roll it down, and you see Tyreek roll it down a couple of inches, and then he said, "We're not playing these games, get out." And so, for one thing, like, the officer, to me, now I don't know if I'm seeing the whole thing when he came up to the window, but when he's knocking on the window, Tyreek rolls it down a couple of inches, and then he says, "We're not playing these games, get out." I don't know what Tyreek is saying in the car to the officer, because you can't hear that, of course. Maybe he was mouthing off to him. Tyreek says he was nice and very courteous during the traffic stop. So if we take him at his word before the body camera's released, let's say he's being nice and cordial. If that's the case, like, why is that officer so amped up? And when you're going on a traffic stop, as an officer, you're supposed to be looking not only at him, the vehicle, but your surroundings as well, right? Especially like we're doing a traffic stop, for instance, on Interstate 5 or Highway 62. Like when the officer is out, I'm always trying to look for traffic for him. Like, is a car not merging over? Is he going to get hit by a car? Like all those little things you're thinking of on a traffic stop, besides what's going on with the driver and the officer. So when he's when he rolls the window down a couple of inches, if I'm the officer and I'm looking at everything, you can see the stadium in the background, right? So you're obviously, it's game day in a couple of hours. I'm assuming they were probably a detail, but I don't know. The game's going on. It's an exotic sports car. Now, maybe a lot of people in Florida drive exotic sports cars, but I can tell you around where I live in Oregon, it's very rare to see an exotic sports car. I'm sure in Miami they have plenty of exotic sports cars. But if you're an officer and you have any reasonable intelligence and you're pulling a car over in front of a football stadium with game day in 2 hours and it's an exotic sports car, it's probably somebody going to the game, right? Probably somebody headed to that game because they block traffic in certain directions too when you go to these stadiums. So exotic sports car, we got game day cup in a couple hours. Maybe it could be linked to someone at the sporting event, or I don't know. But so, anyways, they talk to Tyreek. He rolls the window down a couple inches. Get out. We're not playing these games. Well, a lot of people, first of all, think on a traffic stop, you don't have to roll your window down at all. And I think a lot of this comes from, people on YouTube when they have the DUI checkpoints. And I'll tell you, here in Oregon, DUI checkpoints are not even allowed. It's illegal by the state Supreme Court here. You're not allowed to run DUI checkpoints. But a lot of people say you don't have to roll your window down. It's illegal search seizure under the Fourth Amendment. So you see a lot of those videos, people not rolling their window down. And I'm not even sure what the Supreme Court ruling is on that. I'm assuming there's something there. Maybe they don't have to comply or do that. Here in Oregon, like I said, we don't have it. So I think a lot of people get this idea, well, I don't have to roll my window down. Well, in Tyreek Hill's case, if he was pulled over for speeding, he has been pulled over for a traffic violation, right? Like I think on the DUI checkpoints, if you look at that, people are saying I don't have to comply because it's illegal search seizure. By their standards, I haven't committed any crime, right? I haven't committed a crime, so you have no reasonable articulate suspicion, no reasonable cause for this stop. But in Tyreek Hill's case, from what I gather, he was pulled over for speeding, maybe a careless or reckless driving. So he has been pulled over for violating a traffic violation. Now, here in Oregon, reckless driving is actually a misdemeanor if that's what he got pulled over for, which is a crime. Okay. Careless driving is still considered, in Oregon anyway, just a traffic violation. The same thing with obviously speeding. Unless in Oregon you are going over 100 miles an hour, then there's different interpretations of that. But normal speeding, it'd be a violation. But anyway, and regardless of that, he was speeding, which means, the officer has a reason to pull him over. Now, I will say this. When I was with state troopers on traffic stops, we gave out warnings, I'd say out here 70% of the time, believe it or not. And we didn't have any of this quota nonsense that people talk about. I can just speak for that when I was riding with the state troopers, with the state police. Whatever other communities do or what they do, I have no idea. But I will tell you guys, courtesy went a long way with us. If someone was getting stopped and they rolled their window down, that would, I never saw it where someone didn't roll the window down, but I would say in Tyreek's case, where he rolled it down a couple of inches, the officer might get a little like, okay, first thing I would do in this day and age is think, man, maybe this guy's had some bad experiences with law enforcement, because you don't know people's history. You haven't ran them or anything yet. You don't know. I mean, you can run the plate and see who the registered owner is, and that'll tell you a lot of times that they're suspended. But at the same time, you don't know all their history with what they may have with law enforcement. Shoot, maybe they're a passenger in a vehicle and saw someone have a bad experience with law enforcement, or they've witnessed bad experiences with law enforcement. So they always teach you to de-escalate, talk things out. De-escalation is the key. And I just think when he rolled the window down a couple of inches and the cop's response was, we're not playing those games, get out. I feel like, not knowing what Tyreek said, but like, for whatever reason, he escalated that pretty quick in those kind of words, right? Like, get out of the car, we're not playing those games. Like, that's just not something that I would say unless a guy was being a total jerk. And according to Tyreek Hill, there's no body camera footage out yet. He was being nice and courteous. He had his hands on the steering wheel, so he says. So if he rolls his window down a couple inches to hand you documents, yeah, be nice if he rolled the window all the way down, but he can roll the window down a couple inches. There's no law that I've seen anywhere that says you got to roll the window all the way down. However, I will say this. And you guys can look this up on Supreme Court law. There was 2 cases back. I know one was 1970 or 77, Pennsylvania, USA, and there's it was Pennsylvania MIMS, not USA, Pennsylvania MIMS. And then you have the other one that was Maryland. Forgot who it was against. But in those cases, the officer, right? So if I was doing the traffic stop in those cases, it's already been said the officer has a right to pull you out of the vehicle and talk to you and question you. He does. That's according to the Supreme Court. So not only if they ask you to roll your window down, if you speeded, I mean, technically, he could pull you out of the car and talk to you and question you. And you may think that's against your rights on your Constitution, but the Supreme Court's already said that it's not. Look at the case law. So an officer on a traffic stop could pull you out of a vehicle and talk to you and question you. What they can't do, though, is they can't go on a fishing expedition, right? They can't open the door and have you come out and start searching your vehicle under the seat and everything. They're not allowed to do that. But he could have said to Tyreek, hey, maybe his windows are tinted, right? Tyreek, your windows are tinted. I can't see in there. For officer safety, I'd like you to come out of the vehicle and talk to you about your speeding today. He could have done that. That's perfectly within Supreme Court rules on different cases. So I don't know. I couldn't tell if his windows were that tinted or not. But if his windows were really tinted and the officer couldn't see in there, and he's thinking maybe it's an officer safety thing, which I already told you guys what I think about an exotic car in front of a football facility. But just going back to the officer, if he used the officer safety, all right, he could pull Tyreek and talk to him, but then the whole issue gets, why was he pulling him out of the vehicle, putting him to the ground, handcuffing him like he did? I don't understand that, especially with 4 to 5 officers there. Really, you're going to feel like you're threatened. You got 4 to 5 officers there around you. And out here in Oregon, we don't have any backup or anything. I'd be riding with the trooper. He'd be the only one for the whole county of 250,000 people. About 40 miles around here. I never once remember an officer just pulling someone out for speed and putting handcuffs on them. Like, that just didn't happen. So maybe they do things differently in Florida. But yeah, so to go back on it, people think in this case, Tyreek was pulled over for speeding. And so just to go back on it really quick, if someone's coming in the chat, the officer's asking for his documentation. He needs to show it, right? Driver's license, proof of insurance, registration. I think people, just to go back really quick, watch a lot of the DUI checkpoints where they don't have to roll their window down. Think, well, you don't have to roll your window down. Actually, you have to give the officer, if the officer's asking for documentation, you got to get it. The officer asked him to roll the window down. He did roll it down a couple of inches. That might have pissed the officer off. I don't know what was being said to the car, but technically the officer can pull him out of the car under the Supreme Court cases. And question him, right, about what he did wrong. However, I'm going to go back to this. And Robert Caldwell was in the chat. He would know this. Like, police, firemen, paramedics, like, they're all a family, a fraternity. If you pull up, if a police officer pulls a police officer over, he's probably going to cut him a break 99% of the time. It's a fraternity. Guys, like, if you're the Miami-Dade Police Department, just to back up here for a moment, and I'm assuming these guys are probably working a detail, right? Maybe they're getting paid overtime. I don't know. I'm assuming they're working some kind of detail because it was right in front of the stadium. Maybe not. But I would think the city of Miami-Dade and the Miami Dolphins have a special working relationship. You've got the superstar player you pulled over. It's an exotic car. And are you telling me, I'm just thinking common sense here. Are you trying to tell me there's 5 officers there and nobody knows this guy's Tyreek Hill, the receiver for the Miami Dolphins? Are you surely going to tell me that? I don't even live in Miami, and yet I pulled that guy over and he got out of the car. I would say, damn, are you Tyreek Hill? So I question that. Like, you got an exotic car in front of the stadium. You pull him out. You see all these people stop and looking at the situation, and you don't want to ask yourself, is this guy an athlete? Like, what's going on here? Or who is this guy we got pulled over with this exotic car? Someone in the group didn't know, hey, this is Tyreek Hill. Really? There's no Miami Dolphins fans around there? I just don't. That doesn't make sense to me at all. Just common sense. Like, I don't get that. And somebody there as an officer should have been thinking, this is going to be a public relations nightmare, right? Like, this is going to be a public relations nightmare on the department. Nobody's thinking of this stuff. Are you kidding me? Like, when I was just an explorer at the state police, we always try to, your image, your reputation is everything. Even streaming here on YouTube with coins, your image, your reputation is everything, right, SGT? So, I mean, there's all kinds of things on this and everything that's been going on in the country. I just don't understand. A lot of this stuff is just common sense. Like, exotic sports car in front of the stadium on game day. And you're telling me we got 4 to 5 motor officers there and nobody knows this is Tyreek Hill or is even thinking like putting 2 and 2 together? Or I don't know, was there a sergeant or a corporal there? Like, hey guys, get this guy, get him, write him a speed ticket, get him on his way. We'll figure it out later. This is going to be a public relations nightmare on the department. Beyond anything else that happened during the traffic stop. I don't get all that. And I don't know. I mean, Tyreek Hill saying he was respectful. And like I said, when he rolled the window down a couple of inches, I don't know what he was saying to the officer. I would be interested, when the body cam comes out. I'd be really interested on that, what that first interaction was. So then we get beyond that. Now I've got issues. Why the man was thrown down on the ground and handcuffed. I got issues on that. Like, out here in Oregon, when we did traffic stops, I never once remember having an officer ever put someone to the ground. Sometimes we put them over the hood, and then they would pat them down. But that was for like other stuff going on in crimes. But for speeding, really? And I don't get it. You can't come back to me and tell me it's officer safety. You got 4 to 5 officers there, 4 to 5 of them. If you look at the video, he's not even by himself. He's got 4 to 5 officers there for backup. To me, it's just, I don't know what their policy is in that department, but I wouldn't be putting anyone on the ground, especially over there in Florida. Out here in Oregon, it's getting hot. I would imagine it's super hot down there in Florida, and that pavement's got to be awful hot, that asphalt and that concrete. I mean, can you imagine putting somebody on hot asphalt or concrete? How would you feel if you were put down on hot concrete over it? Think of it this yourself, guys. You're pulled over for speeding, and they put you to the ground on hot asphalt or concrete for a speeding ticket. The whole thing just doesn't make sense to me at all. So now you got them on the ground, handcuffed, and now you're putting them. So you've detained them now over the traffic citation. It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if he says I don't have my ID, okay, put him off to the side with 2 or 3 of the other officers and get his name and date of birth, right? Write down his name and date of birth. Go back to the computer, run his name and date of birth, because guess what's going to happen when you run his name and date of birth on the computer? It's going to show a picture of this individual, right? When you go down to the DMV and get a driver's license, they take your photo, your picture. That comes up in the computer system when they run you. Your photo, your picture. I don't understand the reasoning for putting him to the ground and handcuffing him for any reason at all. And I don't even know how you can say officer safety when you got 4 to 5 other guys standing around there. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Yeah, right, SGT. So I don't understand. Being, like I said, an explorer cadet with the state police, and I look at all the negativity police have gotten over the last 20, 30 years. You would think by now there would be enough training and people would be smart enough to know how to handle themselves, how to take care of their business, especially with body cams and all this video going on nowadays. It's very disturbing to me that, Tyreek does make a point, if this happens to me, what do they do to a regular individual? I mean, that's a good point, because I don't understand. I just don't get I'm going back thinking of the officer. I don't understand his logic, why he would put him to the ground like that and handcuff him on the hot concrete, hot pavement, when he has 3 to 4 other officers there. Even if Tyreek was being mouthy to him, cussing at him, saying he's an asshole or whatever, there's no reason to throw him to the ground and put handcuffs on him. He's not a threat to you. So I that's the part in this investigation where I think someone's going to get in trouble, because there's just so much publicity on this, and I just don't understand like the use of force in that situation. I guess was what I would question. Yeah, Jerry. In my what they used to tell me back in the day was, think of your actions, how you react. Think about how a jury would look at it. 12 of your peers, right? So if this officer handles his business this way, how's that going to look to a jury? 12 peers. How are they going to review and look at your situation, how you handled your business, right? That's how you have to look at it. Because however you're handling your business could go to a jury trial, go in front of a jury. How are they going to see and interpret what you're doing? Um, I have family members that were police officers, but it would be nice if we had like maybe someone in law enforcement talk about how they see these different stops and stuff in our coin community. But that's just how I'm looking at it. To me, this looks really bad on the Miami-Dade Police Department. Any way you look at it, I mean, I just, I, I don't get it. If he's speeding and out of control, right? Reckless driving. Let's just say it's the worst thing that could possibly happen, Sergeant. The guy is reckless driving. The game starts in a few hours. I'm sure there's people everywhere. Like I said, at Autzen Stadium, it's a smaller stadium. You got people walking around everywhere. The officer could pull him over, get mad, say, "Look, Tyreek, there's people everywhere here, man. You have got to slow it down. I understand you're trying to get to the stadium, but I have people walking around everywhere. I'm going to be citing you a ticket. You're not above anybody else, but you've got to slow it down. There's just kids out here, parents out here. Yeah, I can see an officer being upset and maybe writing him a ticket, but I don't understand. Uh, I just don't know. I don't understand how it putting him. I don't understand putting the guy laying him down out on the concrete over speeding. Even if they say it's reckless driving, I never saw us take anyone to jail for reckless driving. Could they go to jail? Yeah, but we never would take them to jail for it. They would just write them a ticket. Then they would appear in court. So I don't understand. And if you were going to arrest them, there's still no reason you need to throw them to the ground, especially with 4 other officers there. You could handcuff him and sit him in the back of a car, where it's air conditioned, or let him stand up by the side of the car. But to throw him on the ground like that, to me, I mean, if I was looking at it, I'd say it's a training issue, a force issue. I would be really curious to know what was that officer's reasoning for putting him to the ground like that, especially when he has. I mean, I wouldn't see anyone doing it anyway, but when you got 3 to 4 other officers there, why are you putting him to the ground like that? I don't get it. So it'll be very interesting, you guys, what happens with this. I think it will be a public relations nightmare for the Miami-Dade Police Department. Like I said, what they could have done if Tyreek wasn't rolling the window down far enough, they didn't. I think part of it was the officer, for whatever reason, was jacked up. He only rolled it down a couple inches, got mad, said, "Okay, I'm going to pull you out right now." He could have said, "Look, I want you to roll the window down all the way." I couldn't tell if his windows were tinted or not, too. He could have said, "I want you to roll the window down all the way. If you don't roll the window down all the way, I'm going to ask you to step out of the car." He never even said that. He just said, "I'm not playing these games. I'm pulling you out." Uh, I just thought his wording and his words could have been handled a lot better, a lot more respectful. Like, he could have said, "I appreciate you rolling the window down a couple inches, sir, but I need you to roll your window all the way down." Maybe he could have said, "For officer safety, your windows are tinted. I can't see in there. I need to be able to see in your vehicle. Can you please roll the window all the way down?" And then if he didn't comply with that, you could have said, "Sir, if you don't roll the window all the way down for officer safety, I am going to have to ask you to step out of the vehicle so I can talk to you to the side of the road to get your information." Yeah, so I mean, in a situation like that, and that's the thing, I couldn't tell Sergeant if his windows are really tinted or blacked out. I'm going to assume they probably are, just because he's an athlete in an exotic vehicle. So if he rolled it down a couple inches, instead the officer, just the way his tone of voice was that I saw in the video, he said, "If you don't His exact words were, we're not going to play these games. I'm going to take you out of the vehicle. Like, I would have just said, sir, for officer safety, I can't see in your vehicle. I'm going to ask you to please roll your window all the way down so I can talk to you, and for my safety, I can see in your vehicle. If you're going to be unwilling to roll your windows down, then I'm going to ask you to step out of the vehicle and we're going to talk off to the side for my safety. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how I would have approached it. So, anyways, I just want to do a quick live stream, you guys, to talk about it. See what you guys felt about it. Good to see Cash Money, Jenny, sweetheart, big hugs, everyone out there. And see, that's the thing I don't know, Terma Mary, like, how we conduct our business in Oregon and how people conduct their business on the East Coast, on the Midwest, right? Like, there's different ways people handle their business, different norms and cultures. But just going back, the Supreme Court rulings, right? That's why we have the Supreme Court. It rules everything. And the Supreme Court actually says, people don't realize this. The Supreme Court, if you look at those cases, they say that you can be pulled out of your vehicle. Like I said, they can't search the vehicle. Now, they could pull you out and look in it. If there's something in plain view, that's going to be a problem. But they can't start going in there searching your vehicle. But they can ask you to step out of your vehicle. There's actually no law against that. You've been pulled over for speeding or for another violation. The thing I don't know is going back on those DUI checkpoints. I don't know, because we don't have them out here in Oregon. I don't know what the Supreme Court has said on that, or what the Constitution, what the rulings have been on that. So you see a lot of people roll up, don't roll their window down, they get waved through. But I think in doing that, a lot of people think, well, if I get pulled over, I don't have to roll my window down for an officer. And that's not true, because if you're getting pulled over, you've committed a violation, or you've done something wrong to get pulled over. I think it's a little different than somebody who just rolls up to a DUI checkpoint and they can say, hey, this is not a constitutional activity here. They feel like you're violating my rights. But if you got pulled over for speeding or another violation, then that's a different story. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. You guys watch those Tyreek videos and see what you think. But I'm going to be very curious when I see the body cam footage, what was said when he cracked that window down to the officer, and what was the reason for putting him to the ground, when you got 3 to 4 other officers there. So I hope you guys are having an awesome day out there. And yeah, I guess I'll end the stream. I was just doing a chat talking about the big national news, what's been talked about going on here with Tyreek Hill. It's crazy. I'll say that. It's wild. Out here in Oregon, if he would have been stopped, they probably would have said, sir, can you please sign my jersey or autograph a card for me? Yeah, it's definitely interesting out there, Sherman Mary. So big love to everyone. Oh yes, I am in the fantasy leagues. Shoot. Oh, I got my phone streaming this right now. I got like 48 fantasy leagues. ESPN and Yahoo. I had a bunch of different fantasy going on. Yeah, so fantasy football, just on that real quick. I did pretty well. I think probably 70% of my league games I won, 30% I lost. Funny thing is, guys, on some of my leagues, and this might be some folks out there. Yeah, I got 48. I can show you next time I go live with Steve or whatever. I'll show you all my teams. I had Xavier Worthy on the bench on a couple of teams, man. And that guy went off. I did have Rice playing in a few leagues and Rice benched in a few leagues, who had a great fantasy day. There was a receiver, I think, for the Green Bay Packers, had like 33 points on a couple teams. I had him on the bench. So yeah, I lost quite a few fantasy points from bench players. Oh, big hug, Sassy Susan. And then some players that I had drafted, Travis Kelce got me only 6 points in a couple of leagues that I had him in. Drake Landon, I think it is, that receiver for Atlanta didn't do much for me. I don't have Chris Olave, I don't think, in any of my teams, but my son did. He was saying how bad Chris Olave did, but the other receiver rock and rolled it. That's fantasy football for you. You just never know. You never know. Sometimes a guy just goes off. Oh, only one? Oh, dude, yeah, I have like 48 of them. Yeah, what's crazy, really quick, what's crazy about the Giants, man? Oh, going back on that really quick. Saquon Barkley, he went off for me. I only have him on a couple of teams, but I got 33 points out of that man. He had a monster fantasy day. 3 touchdowns, rocked it out. If you're the Giants right now, how are you feeling if you're a Giants fan this week? You see Saquon just go off. You sign your quarterback to a monster deal, and let's face it, not the best quarterback out there. Life's got to suck for you if you're a Giants fan this week. Like THS said, I don't know how you get around it. If you're a Giants fan and you see Barkley go off, and then to make matters worse, you trade the guy in your own freaking division. In the own division, he's going to be playing you twice a year. So you can imagine if Saquon went off like that, THS, imagine what he's going to do when he plays the Giants. He's going to be pissed off. And I feel like he's going to go off. So, yeah, it is not a good week if you're a Giants fan. You know, Silver Spurs, that's why it's important nowadays. They have body cameras on anything in life, you know, whether it's interacting with law enforcement or interacting maybe with a road rage incident, right? Maybe you got someone road raging on you. It's always important to have video. Video evidence is everything, man. I just had an issue here at my house where I had a pipe that broke. And yeah, I have someone claiming some flooding, but I've got video evidence and pictures. Video evidence is your key. It backs you up all the time. Yeah, there is. I'm not in any of them, but I know Steve looking for silver. I think they got something going on. The Lady Stackers, I think, have something going on. I just have public leagues for me. I don't have any leagues in the stacking community. Would have been nice, but it never happened for me. But yeah, you can't beat camera evidence. Yeah, that's the difference nowadays. I mean, I don't think in the 90s we had body cam. We didn't do like the body camera thing, I don't think. But now with body cameras and man, whether you like it or not, guys, today you're on camera. You know, you're always on a camera somewhere. I thought the Cowboys looked good. They were dialed in, just to be honest. I thought they looked good. I thought the Chiefs looked amazing. I think the Chiefs, I don't see my Chargers winning that division at all. At all. Yeah, dang it. Rice, Worthy looked really, really good. You got Kelce, of course. You got the other receiver that's hurt right now. I can't think of his name for Kansas City. He'll be coming back. But Kansas City's got weapons, you guys. Eagles got a ton of weapons. The Eagles, the Chiefs. God, Josh Allen had a monster day, 4 touchdowns. So I think it's starting to come together. You're starting to see. You'll have like I got my top 8 teams. I feel like are gonna go. It'll be interesting watching the 49ers tonight. See how they click. I think they're going to be really good. They have a ton of weapons too. So, anyways, you guys, I'm going to end this live stream. Just giving you guys my 2 cents on how I feel about the situation. It'll be interesting to see what happens on this. But definitely for right now, I don't think it's looking good for the Miami-Dade Police Department at all. Big love to everyone. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Don't forget, Cash Money was in here. I'm kind of out of the loop. It's been a little bit since I've been streaming on YouTube. Cash Money, guys, live tomorrow on Tuesday and Thursday. Make sure over there. I'll make sure I'm over there on Tuesday. Start watching the Jets. I'll be watching the game tonight. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers can do, man. We'll see how he's going to look tonight. He's had how's it been? A couple years. I mean, he got injured right away in that first game. Shit, it's probably been a couple years since he's probably played a game, so it'll be interesting for sure. Big love to all you guys. You guys have a nice day out there. Take care. And as SGT said, you guys all have an amazing week.